Mantra 7. As the spider makes and withdraws its web, as on earth herbs grow, as from a living man hair grows on head and body, so from the imperishable the universe emerges here. Okay, so the mantra is describing or attempting to convey some kind of information about what the Swami calls in the commentary the spontaneity of creation. So there's this relationship that is trying to be conveyed between the higher knowledge that he talked about in Mantra 6, the imperishable, the pure consciousness, and what we see around us. Okay, so if we go back to Mantra 6, he's describing Brahman, he's describing the reality as imperceptible, ungraspable, without caste, without eye, without hand, eternal, of manifold expression, all-pervading, etc. This is the way he describes the reality. Now, it's clearly not a description of the world. The world is graspable. It is perceptible. It's not eternal. So the description of the reality doesn't really match what we see around us or what we experience of the universe, the world. So what is this relationship? How does something which is graspable, which is perceptible, finite, emerge from that which is imperceptible, ungraspable, and infinite? Okay, so the relationship can't be properly described or defined. It can only be pointed at. And so in this mantra, he uses 3 analogies. So each of the analogies has its own value. There's some meaning or some aspect of this relationship that can be conveyed, but also each analogy has its own limitation. It has a narrow scope, but it's incomplete. And if you probe the analogy, you start to find holes in it. And so another analogy can be presented to try and fill the hole that you can obviously find in the first one. That too will have its own scope, its own useful meaning, but it too will also be incomplete. And so we need another analogy. And so on and so on and so on. So the point of presenting 3 analogies one after another is that no explanation of this emergence of the experienceable world from the ungraspable reality can be complete. No explanation can be complete. Why is this the case? The Swami says in the commentary, no explanation is complete, for the world is a mere illusory projection upon the immaculate reality. So how do we understand this? What's one of our favorite analogies that we often fall back on when we're trying to understand this relationship between the reality and the world? Rope snake example. So ask the question, how does the snake emerge from the rope? If we try to explain that from the perspective of the rope, we can't. It's not that there is a strict cause-effect relationship. The snake itself is an illusory projection upon the rope. So it's not that the rope produces the snake in the way that we are perhaps inclined to understand that kind of language. In a similar way, whatever explanation we try to grasp in terms of what it means for the world to emerge from the reality, it's not going to be complete. All it's doing is giving us some pointers and some ideas that we can hold on to as a way of creating some kind of framework of understanding. But it's important that whatever framework we create, we recognize that it's an incomplete and imperfect theory. So let's go back to the verse. What are the three analogies he gives? As the spider makes and withdraws its web, as on earth herbs grow, and as from a living man hair grows on head and body. So the first analogy he presents is that of the spider's web. What might he be trying to draw out of this image, something which is familiar to all of us? The spider's web is made out of the spider, if you want to put it that way. Where does the web emerge from? It emerges from the spider's own body. If you like, the web is made out of spider. And what does the spider use to create the web? Well, again, the spider uses itself. It's not that the spider goes off to the local building supplies depot and picks up tools and equipment and materials. There's nothing else other than the spider from which the web emerges, and there's nothing else other than the spider that is used to create it. This is the aspect that is being conveyed here. In just the same way as that the web is made out of the spider, the universe that we see, which is perceptible, which is graspable, is made out of Brahman. The universe is Brahman in the same way that the web is the spider. Not only that, but the universe emerges without the necessity for any other factor. It's not, again, that Brahman uses something as a tool for the universe to emerge. There is this, again, spontaneity of creation. So what are we seeing around us? This is Brahman. This is consciousness. Go back to these analogies that we just touched on. When you are in the dream world, what are you seeing? Objects, people, events. What you're looking at, what you're perceiving, what you're feeling, what you're thinking is all mind. It is made out of mind. We'll go back to the rope snake analogy. When you are looking at the snake, whether you know it or not, what you're looking at is a rope. The snake is the rope. In just the same way, as he's saying here, the universe is Brahman. Conditioned consciousness is the unconditioned consciousness. So to say something is conditioned means that it has qualities or properties, it has a particular form, it has a function, it's subject to change. It has certain conditions which define it. Any consciousness that has conditions to it is the conditioned consciousness. Anything that you are capable of experiencing is conditioned consciousness, in the sense that you are conscious of different conditions. The phrase conditioned consciousness refers to that which is experienced. Part of that conditioned consciousness is the subject, the me. I'm the one experiencing it. Subject and object. And this, in fact, might be another way to simply describe conditioned consciousness, which is the subject-object relationship. Experiencer, experienced, related by experiencing. You can't point to the unconditioned consciousness because to point to it means that you're making it an object of awareness. So anything which emerges as an object of awareness must be part of the conditioned consciousness. Not only that, but anything that you can identify as the subject, the one who is experiencing these objects, that too is part of the conditioned consciousness. It's just the nature of the intellect and the mind to experience their deeper, truer nature. And so when we start to work with these analogies, we can use them purely as study material. What is it saying? What are the different elements of the analogy that track onto each other? What is trying to be conveyed here? That's the gross intellect. Thinking, questioning, coming to an understanding, as I was saying before, creating a framework of knowledge. The other way to work with these sorts of analogies is to go beyond mere reflection and into contemplation. What is the point being made here? The point being made here is that the universe itself is not something different to the reality. This is consciousness. Consciousness is the fundamental stuff from which this is made. And so that can be something that you use as a contemplative practice now. So you might sit and just let your awareness fall on the contents of your consciousness. You can hear the rain and the wind outside, you can hear the traffic, you can hear the hum of the air conditioner, you can feel the temperature on your skin, the weight of your body on the chair, the movement of the body as it breathes, the sense of curiosity as to why I might even be contemplating, the emotional tone, the whole canvas of experience. Everything that emerges within your consciousness. Witness it as being made of the same stuff. And one of the ways that you can start to move into this idea of everything being made of the same stuff is to bring to mind the analogy. The thick strand that connects the spider web to the branch is the same as the finest strand of silk in the very center. They have their differences in their qualities and properties, but they are fundamentally the same. The sound of the traffic and the feeling of gratitude of having this time and space to contemplate. The sound and the emotion appear in the same place, on the same canvas. They're made of the same stuff. They're made of consciousness. The next analogy, as plants grow from the earth. So, one of the limitations of the spider web analogy is that the spider has a motive. The motive, of course, is to have a home, somewhere to live, but importantly, to catch food. And so there could creep in, either knowingly or unknowingly, the projection of motive onto the unconditioned consciousness. Unconditioned consciousness wants to capture experience, and so it creates this web of interactions called society. Okay, so that needs to be dispensed with. Hence the next one, as plants grow from the earth. Nature has no motivation for growing plants. It's just the emergence of matter through matter. In a similar way, there's no motivation attributed to Brahman in the emergence of the universe. So what else can we draw from the plants emerging from the earth analogy? Plants emerge from soil, they exist in it and return back to it and become it again. This is one thing that we observe. Another is that while there is this intimate relationship between soil and plants, they're dissimilar in nature. A plant is a cohesive, coherent structure. It captures sunlight, it transports nutrients, it grows food, etc. Whereas soil is this amorphous potentiality. So these are two aspects from the plants growing in soil analogy. One, the emergence and the return of plants to soil, and the dissimilar nature of plants compared to soil. In the same way, we see this in the relationship between Brahman and the universe. Whatever you observe, whatever you experience, emerges from the unconditioned, becomes conditioned, is supported by that, exists in it, and then returns back to it. So again, you can watch this happen in real time. You can sit quietly and just wait for a thought to emerge of your car, of your family, lunch coming up, whatever it happens to be. You can witness its emergence from the blackness, from the emptiness. It exists in this space of consciousness, supported by it. And when it's gone, where does it go? Does it go anywhere? Well, it appears to dissolve back into the same place it came from, which is the silence. That silence of your own mind is like soil. And a thought emerges from it and exists in it and then gets recycled back into it again. In the same way that everything, all matter, emerges from some place, exists for a while and re-emerges, redissolves back. And also this second aspect, the dissimilar nature of the emptiness or the silence from which your thoughts emerge, and the fact that thoughts are noisy. The thought of your car, it has a shape. It has a quality, a property to it. It's got constellated around it certain feelings. I like my car. I'm worried about my car. The silence from which that emerges doesn't have these qualities or properties. So once again, you start with reflection, understand the point that is being made by the analogy, and then take it one step further into a contemplation. But once again, we have a potential misconception that might arise. Plants are alive. They are living beings. They thrive. Whereas dirt is just dirt. It's inert. It's not alive as such. And so we once again may project this misconception and say that there is an aliveness to this. Whereas Brahman, the reality, it's deadness. And that itself may have a subtle, perhaps imperceptible, but nonetheless quite powerful effect on our our continued journey of exploration. Why would you want to go towards something that is dead, inert? Being alive is much better than being dead. Brahman's just dead soil. This alive consciousness which thinks and feels and loves and hates, even the worst day being conscious is better than being dead. So I think I'll stay alive. No meditation for me. Okay, so that misconception is cleared by touching on the next analogy. So the third analogy is the hair emerging from the body. To clear this misconception that Brahman, the reality, is dead, inert matter, while the universe is alive, hair emerges from the living being. But when we consider the living being, it comprises the hair and the body from which it emerges. There's no separation. When you look at yourself in the mirror, the you that you are looking at also includes all of the hair on your body. You don't say, this is me, and draw the boundary as tightly to the scalp as you can and tightly to the skin as you can because I don't count my hair. Now, of course, your hair is you. It's the non-living part of you. You cut it, you don't feel it. The follicles are alive, but the stuff that gets structured and pushed out, it's not alive. But me, this body is alive. Okay, we don't make that distinction. When we talk about a human being is the body and the emerging hair. In the same way, the underlying substratum and the thing that emerges are one. Brahman is the underlying reality. Brahman is the expression that comes from it. Another analogy we've used here is that of ocean and wave. For the purposes of discussion, we can talk about this wave, the next wave, but they don't have any independent existence from the ocean. The ocean means the big body of water that sinks all the way down to the bottom, and the froth, foam, and waves that are turbulent on top. That's what ocean means. And so this analogy takes care of the previous misconception. And of course, this analogy has a problem as well, because when we do look in the mirror, we see the underlying human body and the hair emerging together in the same place. Whereas this is not what's experienced day to day by us. All we experience is the human hair, or rather, all we experience is the conditioned consciousness, the universe. And so we need to add another analogy which would take care of that, ad infinitum. You can spend your whole life analogy after analogy after analogy, and at some point you probably end up back at the spider analogy, and then you really do go around in circles infinitely. So the purpose of these analogies is to bring you close enough to the thing so that you can now contemplate upon it.